Alrighty guys, a very warm welcome to another video. Today we're talking about Lionel Sanders, and in my opinion and in the opinion of most people, and definitely on the scorecard and the timesheet, Lionel's best ever Ironman performance of his career. Now this was back in 2016 at Ironman Arizona, where he broke the then world record with a time of 7 hours and 44 minutes and 29 seconds. And this is an article from Training Peaks, and it's titled Power Analysis: How Lionel Sanders Broke the Ironman World Record. So, by Ryan Cooper. Lionel Sanders recently set the Ironman world record with a time of 7 hours 44:29 at Ironman Arizona. Best Bike Splits. Ryan Cooper interviewed Lionel and took a closer look at his bike and run files to see how the race unfolded. Now, this is going back to 2016, remember, and we're going to dive into the absolute analysis of it. This is Lionel on the bike in his old Garnu bike, his old position, no bike fit, no professional bike fit, no wind tunnel testing, just his setup, what was comfortable for him, doing it very old school. He swam a 53-minute 45-second for, that was good for 25th out of the water, and it was about almost 8 minutes behind the leader, but around, 5 minutes to the other front guys, second, third, fourth, 4 or 5 minutes behind. So why I wanted to go back to one of these races, or this race in particular, is because Lionel has had his struggles of in recently, I guess, and we know that he's changed a lot, and I think a lot of it started back in Ironman Oceanside, whether it was 17 or even 16, 17, and it was a race where he placed second to Jan Frodeno, and from then on went on to kind of break down everything in the sense of his bike fit, his bike equipment, his training, his nutrition, etc. Tried a lot of things with nutrition, tried a lot of things with training. And this was off the back of, some of his best performances, for example, at Kona, where he placed second, etc. So why I want to go back and touching on the original point is because in spite of all that and the struggles that Lionel has recently had with some of his performances, we know that he's had fantastic performances. For example, Ironman 2021 World Championships, which was early in 22 because of the pandemic, in St. George, where he finished second behind Blummenfelt. Fantastic race and a great finish there with Braden Curry for the second and third positions. However, he was originally, one of the OG bike run combo specialists, where he was renowned for his superior bike performances and extremely great or fast runs off that bike, and really unmatched in many races, particularly 70.3s, then even in some of the longer Ironmans. So for example, Arizona, and, one of the pioneers of this super biker that could then go and run very, very quick off the bike. And now it seems like everyone's kind of caught up to that, and it's not like he's an absolute powerhouse in that bike run combo, but it also doesn't seem like his bike run combo is as well as strong as it used to be. And this is probably a combination of many things. He's obviously gotten older, but he's obviously changed his training and nutrition and all that kind of stuff a lot, and he's played around with it a lot. And even in his recent videos, he's like, absolute, effort, I'm going back to the old school methods. I'm going to do what works for me. I don't care what anyone thinks. And I think it would be great to see Lionel get back to this raw training, not worrying about over analysis of absolutely everything, and just getting back to the basics of what worked for him. And let's go and have a read of the article about how he broke the Ironman world record back in 2016. So, Ironman Arizona has had some extremely fast times over the years, including the breakthrough performance by Lionel Sanders in 2015, where he broke the 8-hour barrier with a course record time back then of 7 hours 58:22, while defending his title this year. Not only bested his 2015 time, but went on to shatter his own course record en route to setting the Ironman world record time of 7 hours and 44 minutes 24. So how big of an achievement was this for Lionel? And he's quoted here, "I really started to hit the wall at around 17 miles or so," says Sanders. "At around 23 miles, my fiance was waiting and was able to get through my negative self-talk. She told me I was on pace to break Marino Van Honeke's record, but in order to do it, I was going to have to pick up the pace a lot. I knew at that moment that I would have a massive regret if I didn't give it everything I had for the remainder of the race, and I was able to pick it up again for the remainder. That determination, coupled with a smart race plan, allowed him to put together an amazing total effort from start to finish and take the record. Starting with the swim, Lionel, who admittedly struggled with his discipline, gave up around 4 minutes to most of the lead pack swimmers. While this sounds like a lot, his time was around a minute faster than 2015 and a vast improvement over a race like Kona, where he came out with an 8-minute deficit. With Lionel's stellar bike run prowess, a 4-minute gap is much more manageable, and the course of Arizona favors his riding style and high-end steady effort. Quoted again, "On the bike, I knew patience would be rewarded. I tried to bike as evenly as possible throughout. I was feeling a lot more confident going into this one than Kona. I had done 3 5-hour rides and a couple of 3 and 4-hour rides in the 5 weeks after Kona." So this is, and if we can, what's going to take us away? This is his power analysis on Training Peaks. So the time he recorded officially was a 4:04, but on his data here, a 4:03:38 minutes of data, obviously up and down the course over these, different laps. And what's incredible to see is that his normalized power was 317 watts. His average power was 315 watts. And his heart rate data, which is not shown here, however I thought it was going to be, obviously not. Where is his heart rate? Power, cadence, speed, pace, elevation, temperature. So his heart rate data isn't actually shown here. However, I think it is shown on the run. His heart rate is shown on the run here. Okay, cool. So we'll read through. So looking at the data on the bike, it's apparent that he followed his pacing strategy perfectly, holding a power target of 315 watts and steady as possible. While this seems like a massive amount of power for someone like Lionel, who has a functional threshold power or an FTP around 400 watts, his race intensity factor, IF, was only 0.79, which for pros represents a reasonable effort. Lionel's normalized power was 317 watts, while his average power was right at 315 watts. This equates to a variability index of 1.01, meaning that he rode the course about as steady as possible. The only minor power fluctuations came from the steepest parts of the climb and descent on each lap. A total ride time of 4:04:38, a normalized power of 317 watts. Lionel's training stress score was around 254.5, a number where he knew he would be able to run. Despite having the fastest bike split, Lionel was coming second off the bike to Cameron Worth, and this was one of Cameron's earlier races in the professional field. A former professional cyclist who has gained enough time in the swim to just hold on to the lead heading into the run. So he did actually outbike Cam Worth. Worth biked I think it was about a 4:05 something in this race here. After a quick pass of Worth, Lionel Sanders started to execute his run strategy. I didn't force anything as I knew the race would be won on the run, added Sanders. Out onto the run course once again, I just tried to be patient. I was certain that I would not have the legs to go the full distance regardless of what... I was certain that I would not have the legs. Interesting. Okay, that was right. Regardless of what pace I ran at. So I did go out a little faster than I probably should have with the intention of building up some fat on the competition. So building up a gap and trying to hold on at the end. This is run workout. So it's a 2-hour 42:37. So he did run a 2:42 on the official time. Heart rate average, this is 135 or 136 here. A bit hard to read. But we'll read through. Actually, I'll open up this one and just expand on it. So come on, is that going to load? Yeah, here we go. So his run average heart rate, where's the... this is hard to navigate. Yeah, he's sitting around, 135, 136 beats a minute for most of the run. So and that's one of the most impressive things, really, the low heart rate. So you can see in the run data that Sanders went through the first half marathon very quickly with a time over a bit over 1 hour, 18 minutes. From there, his pace slowly declined to from a 16-minute pace to around 7:20, around mile 23. At this point, he knew that he needed to break the record. So he knew what he needed to do to break the record. And his renewed motivation helped him to increase his pace back to 7:20-minute mile for the last 3 miles of the finish. His run split was 2 hours 42:31, which was fast enough to hold off a charging McCullen, to defend his Ironman Arizona title and take the Ironman world record or fastest pace on the Ironman. And we'll go across to the actual run split and have a look at that in a little bit more detail because it's quite interesting. So bear with me and I'll shoot across to that now. Alrighty, so this is the run analysis itself, 2 hours 42, and you can go down and have a look through, the crossover or the layover of the heart rate and the minute per mile pace. So he's essentially running at, he's going at 5:50, 6-minute mile pace, 5:50, high fives, low sixes throughout the whole thing. Getting towards the end, slowing down to, 6:20-ish or 6:40 even in here. But the red line here is what's really interesting. And this is heart rate data. So, just taking off around 140, going up. I'll try and stay on it. Actually, we can just nope, we can't run that in isolation. That's all right. 145, 140, and then, right down 102. I'm not sure if that's going to be exactly accurate. 120, high 120s, low 130s, pretty much through the whole thing. Peaked up here at a 160, 183. Again, it's probably above his max, so maybe something happened there. And it's one thing as well to kind of think, well, yeah, but how accurate is his heart rate data? Because it's like, is his heart rate just playing up? We know that his heart rate is literally, his max is like, I don't know, somewhere in the 160s or high 160s. It's very low, and his tempo or steady state heart rate is in the 130s. So he's literally run a 2 hour 42 marathon at 135 odd beats a minute, which is just insane and extremely efficient. And you can imagine just how much blood or how much oxygen his heart's able to pump around his body, per beat, and sustain such a high demand for the muscles for oxygen and energy and, everything else, allowing him to power to a strong run performance like this. And his heart rate on the ride, I think, was even lower. So incredible performance. And it's good just to kind of revisit that, because this was, in my opinion, when Lionel was really at his peak. And I'd love to see him go back to the old school, not worrying so much about lactate testing, sweat testing, because he was doing none of that back here. He was just working on his trainer, working on his treadmill. Most of his training was indoors, and he was still able to have some of the best performances and even break the Ironman world record with a 4:04 bike and a 2:42 run, literally averaging his heart rate in like the 130s. So hopefully that was interesting discussion and run through and revisiting of the old 2016 Ironman world record in terms of overall time. And take care, guys. Post any comments or what your thoughts are below, and I'll see everyone in the next video.